What's up, y'all, man? It's your boy David. We're back with another reaction video. Today we're reacting to the premier science educator on this here YouTube platform. We got Kyle Hill, the empty atom myth. As we all know, if you ever took a science class in high school, you would understand that electrons are not electrons. The atom is 99% empty space. So it seems, right? Because the electrons are so far away from the actual like nucleus, which is the protons and the neutrons, that it kind of makes it seem like it's empty, right? So let's see what award-winning science educator Kyle Hill has to say about this. I don't know if he's won any awards. I think I heard him say that once. And he's probably right. I don't know. I don't think people will lie about winning awards. But with that being said, make sure y'all like and subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you for all the support. Let's get straight to it.
Did you know that if you scaled up the nucleus of a hydrogen atom to my size, that the nearest electron would be over 5 kilometers away? This amazing.
That's crazy. And mind you, that's in all of our bodies. Like, we're literally just empty space. That's crazy. It's really crazy because when you think of it on a micro level, the universe is empty. The atoms are empty, right? But on the macro level, it's also empty space. In fact, galaxies in particular are so empty that scientists don't really have a real explanation for how they have that much gravity. The explanation they have is dark matter or dark energy, I believe. It's either one of those two, and it's like basically like the galaxies are exerting so much gravitational like energy or are bending space and time so much that like they don't have enough enough mass with all the matter in them to bend space and time that much. So the only way they could do that is by having invisible matter or dark matter around them, which is so interesting and so fascinating, man.
Fact implies that
matter is mostly empty space.
Did you also know that this well-known factoid isn't true? That's right. Your understanding of the structure of the atom might be.
Hey, but this nigga beard is fucking magnificent, bro. Y'all look at that shit, man. I remember watching him on a game night episode where they was playing Magic the Gathering. He was playing Lord Windgrace. I remember that. He lost that one, but man, his beard was nowhere near this. This shit is giving Thor, the god of thunder. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy.
100 years out of date. Let's get you up to speed. To the classroom.
Now entering the facility.
For whatever pedagogical imperative, most people's understanding of the structure of the atom stops here, with some big balls surrounded by smaller balls. Shush, Kevin, it's not funny. And with this representation,
and that made me question: Are protons and neutrons even balls, nigga? Are they balls? Are electrons even balls? You gotta think. Are you know what I'm saying? Are balls even balls? You gotta really think scientifically, bro. For real, you know what I'm saying?
in mind, it makes sense that you might believe a fun factoid like atoms are mostly empty space. But let's do a little reality check on those balls, shall we? Kevin, I said shush. It's not funny.
He said fucking balls.
Balls. In about 4 billion years, scientists predict that there's a 50-50 chance that the 1 trillion stars of the Andromeda Galaxy will collide with the Milky Way. This sounds like a cosmic catastrophe. However, space is really big.
Citation needed.
And stars are very far apart.
Citation needed.
So much so that scientists also predict that when these two galaxies come together, it's unlikely that a single star will collide when they do so. Not a single star out of a trillion. In fact, the galaxies are going to basically pass through each other until gravity brings them back together into some new stellar structure. Now, atoms are not spaced at the same scale as stars, but if they were in fact mostly empty, shouldn't a similar thing happen when, for example, you bring...
When exactly like when, you know, like my hands are made of atoms, they touch, but they still, you know, collide and shit. If it was like 99% empty with like you're in like a motherfucking like wind, you know what I'm saying?
The galaxy of subatomic particles in your hand in contact with something else? Why doesn't your mostly empty hand pass right through your mostly empty phone that half of you are holding right now, like the Flash? Why can't you walk through walls like Harry Potter?
Really? Harry Potter in 2026?
You're right. We need to move on from that. Sorry. Well, you
Yeah, that's crazy. Nobody fuck with Harry Potter no more after what J.K. did. That shit crazy, nigga. Wow, I never expected to move on. I'm not mad at it though. I didn't really care much for Harry Potter like that. Obviously, I knew some shit, you know. And I watched, I think, one movie, you know. But other than that, I feel like honestly, Harry Potter was before my time. If I'm being honest, bro, I ain't gonna lie. So I never really like delved deep into it for real. But man, it was alright. It was cool.
don't pass through
I think my favorite thing that I saw from Harry Potter was a fight between Dumbledore and Voldemort, where like Dumbledore turned that fucking water thing into a fire snake or some shit, and he said, and it was a fire snake. That shit was fire, nigga, literally.
things like Andromeda because despite what Dr. T here says,
Atoms are mostly empty space.
no, atoms are not mostly empty space. We've known this fact for over 100 years now, but much like your father's fashion sense, the public understanding of the structure of the atom is stuck somewhere in the 1900s. So, to bring you all the way up to speed, we're gonna start from the very beginning. Kevin, get that out of your nose.
How did he even fit that in there?
I don't know. Actually, I'm kind of impressed it all fit in there. Aria, I would like...
Kevin nasty as fuck. Is that a tattoo, homie? Is that stars? That's kind of fire, Mr. Kyle. It's kind of hard, man.
to admit something to you and all the lovely people watching. About 2 years ago, my health physically was 99% empty. I had just exploded a finger while rock climbing, got depressed, I'd gained a bunch of weight, and I started feeling self-conscious about appearing in front of you and doing, you know, my whole thing. Thankfully, that all started to turn around once I found the only personal training program that has ever worked for me. I can now happily say that for the last 2 train with access to Coach Rob days, the app getting me a job is how it
Shout out to them for real.
summary that's like using Trainwell has changed my physical and without it. If you want to try it days for me, it actually takes scientists to start 2 years pumping iron. I'll tell you that. The first idea is that all stuff in the universe is made up of smaller, indivisible stuff were had a very long time ago indeed, when a one Democritus of Abdera, handsome guy, thought that all
But it's handsome. That nigga look fucked up. Look like he got punched in the face too many times. God damn. That shit crazy.
all matter in the universe must be made up of individual particulates, and he named these building blocks of matter itself atomos, meaning indivisible. But it would be another 2,000 years before science was in a state where it could get the atom to fully reveal itself. Or thyself. I don't know how they spoke. The first real insights into the atom came shortly after the discovery of natural radioactivity in 1896. Just 1 year later, in 1897, physicist J.J. Thomson
That's not him.
was exciting different gases in glass tubes when he discovered that something was coming out of these gases that could be deflected by electromagnetic fields. More specifically, something negatively charged was being deflected by a negative charge. J.J. Thomson concluded
Why are you doing this?
that some part of the gas must be discrete and have an overall negative charge. We now call these particulates electrons. And because atoms are electrically neutral, Thomson proposed that these negative particulates must be embedded in something with all of the gas mass and an overall positive charge to cancel them out. Around the same time, physicist Ernest Rutherford
Why are you?
Who are these random niggas? I don't even know who this is, but I know that's not whatever the fuck he just said. I don't know. What the hell?
The way that you are.
was expanding on the work of Pierre and Marie Curie. He discovered that natural radioactive elements emitted at least 2 different kinds of radiation. The first had a lot of mass and was repelled by positive charges. He called these alpha particles. The second had the same charge to mass ratio as electrons and was repelled by negative charges. He called these
Beta.
particles, which were later confirmed to be high-energy electrons. Ernest would then go on to use these particles in one of the most famous science experiments of all time. To further question the composition of the atom, Rutherford took a source of alpha particles and aimed them at a sheet of gold. Gold was chosen because it can be hammered down to just a few atoms thick, minimizing the hot atom-on-atom action to make what might happen more clear. If J.J. Thomson was right, then the alpha particles should punch right through the electrically neutral, evenly distributed atomic pudding. But what actually happened was that the alpha particles were occasionally but significantly deflected onto a surrounding photographic film, sometimes directly back at the radioactive source. The only way this was possible was if the gold sheet contained an atomic structure that had the majority of the
How do you even pound down gold to get that fucking thin? That's crazy. Like, what kind of shit was you doing with the gold? Like, that's not hammer work. That can't be hammer work. That's like taking probably like the smallest speck of gold and smushing it like crazy. I don't know, bro.
mass of the atom in a single positively charged location. Ernest would later call this the nucleus.
Can you give me legs so I can leave?
The famous gold foil experiment directly contradicted J.J. Thomson's ideas, and so, in 1911, Rutherford proposed this, a model of the atom not pudding-like, but instead with a central nucleus and electrons orbiting around it. However, this did not explain why negatively charged electrons wouldn't just spiral in to cancel out their charge with the positively charged nucleus. And so, just 2 years later, in 1913,
Because opposites do attract, so why don't the electrons just fucking into the neutrons and the protons?
a one Niels Bohr took some cues from new physics and proposed this, something that you are probably familiar with, the planetary model of the atom, with a central nucleus and electrons orbiting only at fixed positions around it. This is where most people's understanding of the atom stops, and I guess that is not surprising, because to bring our understanding of the atom all the way up to current knowledge, we have to include one of the most confusing but most powerful ideas in all of science: quantum mechanics. Hey, have you ever seen some self-help
Bro, there's no way we're about to catch this quantum mechanics work. Oh my god, bro.
book or guru life? Well, you've probably heard that a particle and wave-like properties. Basically, the more massive a particle is, the smaller its wavelength, wave-like particle and a wave, right? Well, this is just a new science-y quantum. In some self-help book or guru guy, because they're always guys, say quantum is the key to everything in your life. Well, this is just a new science-y spin on an old scam, and I can prove it to you. You've probably heard that a particle can act both as a particle and a wave, right? Well, this equation, first developed by Louis de Broglie, relates a particle's mass and its wavelength. Point and wave-like properties. Basically, the more massive a particle is, the smaller its wavelength, and it's less likely to interact like a wave with something of a similar orders of magnitude size. You can think of it like this. Imagine a tiny bathroom rubber ducky going down the Amazon River. Even though the little rubber ducky does make some waves, it doesn't really affect the entirety of
The entirety of the freaking thing, cause just a little itty bitty rubber ducky. Oh. Yeah, I'm fucking confused as hell. God, I don't know what the fuck going on right now. That shit crazy, nigga. Hold on. Yeah, I'm lost.
Amazon River's waves, right? For all intents and purposes, because it's so small, you can treat the rubber duck like a particle. Here's why the whole quantum thing is a scam. They say that quantum effects can be had at our human scales, right? Well, let's imagine a double slit experiment at human size. Let's get two normal doors, place them 1 meter apart, and then you go running at the center of them like an absolute maniac. You plug your mass and your average velocity into the de Broglie equation, and you get a wavelength that is 1 trillion trillionths of a meter. Much smaller than a meter, and so you are most likely to interact with those two doors like a particle and not like a wave, and you're gonna smash your face. Don't you feel stupid now? On the other
But I didn't run at the door. I'm not dumb, nigga. I'm literally like in college. I wouldn't run at the door. What the fuck?
hand, take an electron, which has a de Broglie wavelength on the order of the diameter of atoms, and so it interacts like waves with atoms. Simply put, we do not experience quantum-like effects, and you can't use them to...
Because we're too big to experience quantum-like effects. That shit only happens in like the smallest, most minute parts of the universe, was like quarks and like subatomic particles like quarks. I don't know.
buy a helicopter or a yacht or whatever because our wavelengths are simply too small, our systems are simply too massive, no matter what Deepfake Chakra has to say, or whatever his name was. It was pretty redacted, so it was hard to read. Now, the model that you know, the planetary model, is pretty close to true. There is a central nucleus and there are electrons around it occupying only certain energy levels. However, once you start adding more and more electrons to this model for bigger and bigger atoms, aside from hydrogen, the model fails. Scientists would soon realize that the only way to make sense of the world at this scale is to include weird duality particle wave probability stuff. In 1924, Louis de Broglie built on the famous double-slit experiments over a century before and proposed in his PhD thesis that all matter has wave-like properties. Just 2 years later, in 1926, Erwin Schrödinger
I am calling the police.
applied the matter wave idea to the structure of the atom, mathematically treating the electrons like waves. Now things get tricky. If matter is acting like a wave, then it can't have a single defined position like a planet orbiting a star. The Bohr model, right? Instead, there will be only a probability that, say, an electron will be in some spot when you go looking for it, and that probability depends on what its wave looks like. So you calculate what's called the wave function for a particle, proportional to the amplitude and size of its wave, and then you plot this function across higher and lower probabilities to see where the particle is likely to be. Do this and you get a visualization like this, with denser dots indicating higher probabilities. These regions that change size and density are called orbitals, and after another 100 years of
So this is where the electrons could possibly be.
study, we now know that these probability distributions can have many different shapes that are actually quite beautiful. So Schrödinger applied all of this to the structure of the atom and finally proposed the quantum model of the atom. No little balls, no defined orbits, but instead a cloud of probability around a nucleus that changes depending on the number of electron matter waves sloshing around, which ultimately determines how atoms interact with each other. This is why you can touch things without your hand passing through them. This is our most up-to-date understanding.
Boy, this shit look like a motherfucking piss stain. I don't even know, man. Like, huh? That's why we could touch things, because like there's so many electrons, or not so many, but they're all kind of, they could be in multiple places at once. So it's kind of like you don't, you know.
I ask you, dear viewer, do you see mostly empty space in this model?
No.
Again, I understand why most people's understanding of the atom stops at the planetary model. It's much easier to understand than quantum mechanics. But if you're going to carry any factoid about the atom around for the rest of your life and maybe tell millions of people about something that is wrong,
Wait.
it's worth embracing just a little bit of quantum weirdness to get your understanding close.
Damn, bro, you beefing with my nigga Tyson? You beefing with Tyson? One legendary science communicator to another legendary science communicator? Ah, damn, that's crazy. But the streets is hot.
Closer to the truth about this wonderful universe. Are atoms mostly empty? No. Reality is a lot fuller than that. Until next time.
Full of like his hair, man. That nigga got a lion's mane, bro. No cap.
Now exiting the facility.
Thanks again to Trainwell.
Hey, but I just end the video, though. Let me see.
Thank you. I don't know how I'm going to pass that. You ever wonder, I do, about little factoids that you like to say that turn out to...
But hey, man, that was the what was it again? The Empty Atom Myth by award-winning science communicator Kyle Hill, or as I like to call him, Thor, Odin's son, or Lion's Mane. But with that being said, man, y'all like and subscribe. Trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. Man, I did not know that like atoms was like that, but it kind of makes sense because you know electrons can be waves or particles, and at the level that small, they tend to act more like waves, which is why like basically they kind of always like never miss each other and shit. Man, that's crazy. But with that being said, man, I'm gonna catch y'all next one. Make sure you like and subscribe once again, and we out this bit, man. Have a good day.